Hello everybody. I originally posted this video yesterday, and it was brought to my attention that I mispronounced Evo Shandor, which I don't care about. But then apparently I said Wilson instead of Winston, and that wasn't going to stand. And never caught it on the many times I listened to it over again when I was editing. So apologize for that, and here's the corrected version. Hello there, I'm Mr. Movie Lover here to discuss why Ghostbusters Afterlife worked as a proper sequel to the original Ghostbusters. It attempted to bring love back to a property that was almost 40 years old, and whose original film is still praised by all. But the previous sequels, especially the more recent one, were less well received. In that way, it joined the ranks of way more sequel films that I recalled when I first started researching this video. Before we get into all that though, a brief Ghostbusters history. So sit down class, it's time for Ghostbusters History 101. So back in 1981, two amazing things happened. First of all, a certain lover of movies was born. And almost as important, Dan Aykroyd read an article on quantum physics and parapsychology in the Journal of the American Society for Psychical Research. This gave him the idea that it could be possible to trap ghosts and led him to start writing the script for Ghostbusters, although he had hoped to star alongside his SNL buddies Eddie Murphy and John Belushi before his death in 1982. But 3 years later, in June of 1984, Ghostbusters was released to critical acclaim. Everyone loved it. Well, almost everyone. I, being 3 at the time, would not see it for several more years. Now, finally after that, everyone in the whole world that mattered could unanimously exclaim that Ghostbusters was a comical genius of a movie. Ghostbusters was so successful that they had an animated spin-off show based off of it called The Real Ghostbusters, because they wanted to distinguish their own show from another Ghostbusters cartoon released in the same time, but not based on the film. Side note, I remember watching both The Real Ghostbusters and just the regular Ghostbusters, since they were both aired together, until the latter was canceled after one season. So they get confused in my head. The not-so-real Ghostbusters had some sort of TARDIS/Hermione tent conveyor belt system of skeleton arms to dress the heroes into their ghost-busting outfits, and a gorilla. The Real Ghostbusters was voiced by Garfield and had Slimer, and of course lasted for 6 seasons, so it won that battle. Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989, but critically it was a little bit less loved. Whoa! Hey Slimer, what brings you here? That's right, you were made more popular by the animated series. Like Slimer said, it didn't really grow from the first movie. I think they wanted the characters to go back through the similar arcs, so they cast them down to becoming quacks that had to earn their reputation back after they were the saviors of the city and maybe the world just a few years prior. They even get threatened at the end of the second act by a government official. This time a deputy mayor, I think, instead of the EPA, and have to wait for the mayor to beg them again to save everyone. There was the Extreme Ghostbusters, another cartoon that came out in 1997, but I was a grown teenager by then, I don't really remember it. And there was a Ghostbusters game that came out in 2004 that many at the time thought it was the Ghostbusters 3 that we didn't get. Again, for some reason, I never got around to playing that either. And lastly, we have the 2016 Ghostbusters film. In 2014, Harold Ramis, who played Egon, passed away, and that left the creative control over the Ghostbusters franchise to Ivan Reitman. Reitman and Aykroyd started a new production company called Ghost Corps that will produce future installments of the franchise. Their first one would be the all-female remake reboot, but also somehow a sequel, maybe? Directed by Paul Feig, previously known for Bridesmaids, Spy, and The Heat. Goofy films that helped turn Melissa McCarthy into a household name. No surprise that she was the sort of lead of the 2016 film. As I mentioned in my short last week, I didn't hate this film like so many other haters did, but I will admit that it had some flaws. Like, a lot. It relied on McCarthy and her gang of SNL alumni to turn Ghostbusters into, I guess, an immature flip-flop version of one-liners.
They're like, get it off me.
He ripped that V-neck off and he gets it busy.
And he rips that V-neck off, he's got another V-neck underneath.
And like I said, I didn't hate it. I don't mind immature humor. It was full of cheap one-liners, lacked chemistry between the cast, and the CGI ghosts were just off. So that being said, what did Ghostbusters Afterlife do? It freaking rocked is what it did! Wait, you're not in this film. Go away now. It starts out with a jump scare and a spooky car chase. A mysterious man runs to his farm where he's holding a... Wait, did I give a spoiler warning? I can't remember. But spoilers from here on out, folks. Oh, and since we've already broke the narrative again, how hard is it to give this video a like? Maybe subscribe? If you're still around, you must obviously like what you see here for some reason, so go ahead and sign up for more of this. back to the spoiled video. He's holding a ghost trap. Now we don't see his face, and I think I'm probably the only one in the world who didn't automatically realize that was Egon. But we established right from the back that this is a Ghostbusters movie. It's got traps. It's got PKE meters. I did recognize those, thank you. And it's got a creepy dog arms busting out of through chairs, but alas, poor Egon. He did not make it. Cut to our protagonists, the Spanglers, although they don't mention it right away, so that dummies like me get to enjoy a little mystery. We have Carrie Coon as Callie, the mom who's really just a mess. She's jobless, and just moments after she's introduced, homeless, and is really bad at food safety? Finn Wolfhard, yes, the kid from Stranger Things, plays Trevor, her wisecracking, car-fixing 15-year-old who failed his driving test twice at 15. Callie's daughter, Phoebe, is played by McKenna Grace, who you might have known from playing young Tanya on I, Tonya. Also young Emma from Once Upon a Time, young Carol on Captain Marvel, young Sabrina on the new Sabrina, young Madison on Malignant, the voice of young Daphne in Scoob, and in the TV series The Goodwin Games that only had 8 episodes. She played the distinguished character of even younger Chloe. But she gets to shine here as just the current age Phoebe in this movie. I think she was one of my favorite characters. As you get to know her, it becomes more and more obvious that she is just the spitting image of her deceased grandfather, Egon Spengler. Mystery solved! They go out to because they're evicted and are hoping for some money, but they don't get any money, sadly. They just get a creepy old haunted house. One of the things that separates this sequel from others like it is that it can stand on its own. Sure, there's a lot of callbacks, but they're explained as it come. What's that? It's a trap. What's a trap? It's from the Ghostbusters. What's the Ghostbusters? Here's a YouTube video. Phoebe makes her first friend ever, maybe, with a young Asian kid who's obsessed with podcasts and making podcasts and names himself Podcast. I love this kid. He's kind of like the new Ray, innocent and funny, and immediately Phoebe and Podcast hit it off. Phoebe is curious about everything around her, learning about all the strange new things hidden in the dirt farm. Stranger Things? And Podcast loves documenting everything. They go on their side quest with the aid of their summer school teacher, Gary Gruberson. Here's another thing that sets this belated sequel apart from others. Paul Rudd. I think if the Star Wars sequels had Paul Rudd, they would have been like tenfold better. Also, maybe a cohesive theme and story arc throughout and chemistry between the characters. But we're not here to bash Star Wars. Although, who couldn't have great chemistry with Paul Rudd? He's such a delight. Trevor spends the whole movie trying to connect with Lucky, the cool waitress at the drive-in, and those two work as well. He's a goofy, younger kid, but not played by McKenna Grace. She's consistently teasing him while he's being heckled by her friends. Both the team-ups find new Ghostbusters stuff. Trevor, well, I guess by himself, fixes up Ecto-1, and Phoebe fixes up a proton pack. They work on trying to discover what's going on in the Ghost Mountain. I mean the mines. When they get arrested, and Phoebe's only phone call is not to her mom, but to the old Ghostbusters commercial, which connects her to one Ray Stans. At first I thought he was just here for an exhibition dump and a one-off cameo, but that's a pleasant surprise for later. Now is where we start stepping back into familiar territory. They find Gozer's temple, built by Ivo Shandor, the same architect who built Dana's building in New York that Gozer blew up, and also the temple is built on a selenium mine that was used to build that building. It even comes with a glass tomb Lenin style that housed the deceased Ivo Shandor. Paul Rudd and their mom get intimate and turn into dogs, like in the old movie, and Gozer returns like the old movie, and Ivo gets ripped in half? Yikes. So they try to lure Gozer back to Egon's house and trap it. When that fails, and all is almost lost, we hear a voice, and it's Lando saying, "We're here with every ship in the universe somehow." Oh, really? It's the real Ghostbusters. Peter, Ray, and Winston. They do all their Ghostbusters things. And again, they pull that off for a few reasons. It's not the world's greatest coincidence that they show up. In fact, nothing in this movie is some great coincidence. And I'm picking on the Star Wars sequels again, which I enjoyed, and they were great and all, but there were so many coincidences lining up. Finn's first Stormtrooper mission led him to Poe, and they crashed on the one planet that Rey was on with the Millennium Falcon, and that led them to Han and Chewie, and it goes on from there. In Ghostbusters Afterlife, nothing really is coincidental. Everything is driven by the plot that was released to us slowly throughout this film. Egon and Ray were drifting apart in the past so much that Ray wasn't listening to Egon when he discovered Ivo's resting place. And that drove him to take everything and move to
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain,
and try to save the universe, leaving his family and friends behind. Anyways, yada yada yada, the movie happens and Phoebe calls Ray, and that leads to Ray getting the band back together. And that brings us to them arriving, and it's sold by Dan Aykroyd giving his almost robotic litany of city and county stuff.
In the name of the County of Somerville, State of Oklahoma, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, all the members of Ducks Unlimited, the Association for the Advancement of Retired Persons, I command you under the National Invasive Species Act to depart this world immediately.
Telling Gozer to get lost. and Bill Murray's dry wit. Also, Ernie Hudson's there, continuing his everyman approach. What I'm saying is good writing, directing, and acting just kind of brings everything together. Seriously, it's that easy. A sequel can pull it off if it doesn't try to reproduce the exact same results from the original film by reproducing the exact same setup. Ghostbusters 2 tried to take the successful world-saving Ghostbusters and turn them into hacks at the start of the sequel, so they could go through the same exact motions, just a different big bad. The Paul Feig Ghostbusters tried to make the exact same movie with different big bad and women instead of guys. That gimmick alone didn't make it stand out. Afterlife is its own movie. If you change Egon and Gozer to some old kook and some other dark force and find some other way to end the movie, you'd still have a great movie with Paul Rudd running around in the background. To quote Maddie from the TV show Imposters, which now I'm watching while I'm writing this, always forward, never back. If you try to make a movie that's almost a carbon copy like the original, like The Force Awakens did, then it doesn't quite hold up on its own. Did you leave the theater feeling like a kid again? I think this movie was just swell. And that means I've wrapped this video up perfectly. Boo, 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 boo. Oh, and of course, I am Mr. Movie Lover, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye. Hi there, thanks for watching this video. I know I didn't get anything out last week, but I really wanted to finish this Ghostbusters now that I finally started reworking on it for like the third time. As some of you know, I started working on this right after I watched the movie originally, and had it all going, was editing up, and then lost my whole project like twice. Then I gave up on it for a while. So now I got everything all edited back together, and here it is. Anyways, I really liked Ghostbusters Afterlife. It was my favorite movie of the year until Encanto came out. Alright, so if anyone has any good ideas for movies that I should review next, let me know in the comments, please. I plan on putting out some shorts soon about some characters in some of the TV shows I've been watching that might have curious backstories. We'll find out. That's it for me right now. Bye.